The last 2 decades, we have seen a lot happening. Okay, so we are going to call upon our next moderator. That is Ralph. Of course, many of us know Ralph. He is the co-founder and COO of Explore Tech. Ralph, hello, you're there. All right. And I hand it over to you, Ralph, to take it forward. And just to mention, I'm also excited because my boss is going to be in this panel as well.
Hello, can everyone hear me? Yes, testing, great. Thank you very much. Hope everyone had a nice lunch and some good sessions. Thank you for joining here. I'm just going to wait until these gentlemen set everything up. And while they set everything up, I'd like to introduce my panelists for this session, one by one. We have a very great group of people on stage here who have vast knowledge in the space of technology. So let me call them out one by one. I'd like to start with Paolo Federico. He's a Senior VP for Revenue and Distribution, Jumeirah Hotels. Welcome, Paolo. Then I'd like to follow with Dominic Carr. Dominic is the Corporate VP for Quality and Customer Service Excellence at Rotana Hotels. Followed by Patrick Antaki. Patrick is CEO of HMH Hospitality. And then I'd like to introduce Kevin King, who's the COO of Shiji Group. And then last but not least, Alexander Edstrom. You've seen him earlier on stage, CEO of Atomize. Welcome, gentlemen. I think in the interest of time, and we have quite an interesting discussion, I think I'll just jump straight into the questions with you all. I'd like to start with Kevin. Kevin, what should hotels think about when choosing between older tech and newer cloud-based tech in this region?
I think if you listen to the speakers of the morning talked about change. And they talked about how change needed to happen both at a destination level, at a staffing level, and the like. And such change is also true when you change your technology stack. So you asked me, what should we think about? We should think. Because when you change technology in your hotel or your hotel group, it's a change for an extended period of time. It takes a good 5 years before you rethink again of that change. And when you make a change, you need to make a change across an organization when you change technology. If you really want to make a difference to the most important guest, your guest. They're the most important person that really comes to your hotel. And as such a change requires very strong technology. And that technology needs to be connected. Because it's not just about checking in and checking out. You heard this morning, which is absolutely true, especially in a region like the Middle East, where they know well before the guest even plans to come and stay with you. They know a lot of information. That information needs to be connected and connected to systems that are truly ready for such connections, not just changing technology for the sake of changing technology.
Okay, very good. Alex, kind of linking into that. How does using new tech like cloud systems affect how quickly hotels can use technology for guests and really make them happy? Because obviously, implementation is key here, right? Like it's nice to sign up for something, but it actually comes to using it and implementing it.
Yeah, so I think that it's important to understand that the cloud itself doesn't provide any value unless you know what you're dealing with, sort of. In terms of the technical part of it, to get things up and running if you are in the cloud, that's the easy part. And that's a big benefit of it. The second thing is that, just to add to what Kevin said here, is that what we see a lot is that hotels in general are very quick to connect to the cloud, but they don't really have a solid plan. And if you ask me, it needs to go all the way back even to the brand promise. because it's easy to have let the technology dictate your vision otherwise. So you need to start with what does your brand want to deliver to the market? I mean, it goes down to segmentation and all of those things. What are you supposed to deliver in your property? And then you need to scout, and just as Kevin said, plan carefully. Not only the cloud is first here, but then, I mean, what do I need what tech stack do I need to build around my strategy, rather than the opposite? That's very important. And that takes some time.
Kevin, you want to add something to that?
Yes, I'll add to that. The other thing that was said today about how you look after the guest, how do you surprise and delight the guest, your guest, to pay a lot of money to come and stay with you, and you want them to stay longer and you want them to come back. When you select a company to who you entrust your technology in the cloud to, you need to make sure that those companies actually have the same vision, have the same service quality and thought process that you do, that you need, that you must demand of. Because when you take property systems away from the properties and you put them into the cloud, they have to be up 24/7. They have to be robust. But nothing is perfect and things will happen. But the company that you work with and whoever it is that you're working with that has the various different cloud technologies, they need to be one with you in making sure that that delivery of the uptime is there. Because that guest will not wait, and especially in the connected world that we are now in.
Very much. Dominic, speaking a bit about this connectiveness and integrated tech stacks, can you share an example of when hotels, even on your side, use a variety of different technologies together, and how it helped guests make the hotel, and how it helped guests and how it made the hotel work better, in a sense?
Yeah, I think from our side, we've of course got a mixture of sort of different technologies. We've still got a lot of things that are on premise. We've got some technology that is on cloud. But I think over the last few years, there's been a lot of guest service applications which have now come into play. And we don't want to hold back on that, of course. So, whether you've got in-room dining, restaurant reservations, you've got apps to be able to book tours and safaris and excursions and so forth, and Chromecast to be able to connect your TV in the guest room. And we've got all of these independent applications, and the challenge that we have is that we should know our guests. And suddenly, with some platforms, that's a challenge for us. So what we did was we used our guest service management platform, which is cloud-based. It is able to identify all of our guests during the in-stay. And we built a web app on top of that because we wanted to make this customizable. We want to make it flexible. We want to make sure that we can deploy it in all our hotels. So we are a regional company. We need to make sure that it can be deployed in any destination, in any language. So we used our own web app on top of the guest service application so that we can recognize the guests. And then we have a portal where we can actually put all of these guest applications onto. So when a guest comes, checks in, we can send them the web application. They don't need to download it. We can send it to them on WhatsApp or NFC. They can access all of these applications at the same time from their device, and we can customize it. So if we want to change a provider, service provider, we can switch it on, switch it off, bring a new one, and that's also very important. They can chat with the hotel, for example, in their own language, which can then translate as well. So we wanted to make something that was very flexible, and that our hotels can obviously make it agile to change. And that's the only way that we can do it today when we are dealing with certain technology that's still very much on premise, and then we've got all of these cloud applications as well.
So that flexibility where you said customization, you talked a bit about different service providers for different things in different countries, right?
Yeah.
One vendor might be present somewhere when not in another area.
Yeah.
And
you need to make sure that the payment processing is there. If you're doing an in-room dining application, you need to be able to make that order, post into your POS, and also give the opportunity to the guests to be able to pay by credit card and tip the waiter, not necessarily just collect it on arrival when it comes to the room. So all of those sort of challenges are there as well.
Interesting. Paolo, coming to you. What can hotels do to make sure guests have a smooth and easy digital experience? Right? Considering that guests want things to be easy from start to finish, obviously. There's some, highly demanding people there, obviously. How do you see the role of mobile apps, for example, in this?
So obviously we're in the luxury hospitality sector, so our expectation of our guests is quite diverse, and our objective is really to provide any maximum connectivity and maximum automation to all the way to completely personalized. The examples that we currently are doing, I think mobile apps actually is a small part of the total picture. If you look at the customer journey that we have today for the group, we are of course lucky to have a very supportive ownership group, which believes very much in AI, I won't mention it again, and technology. So we look at the guests from all the way before they arrive. Prior to arriving, we have chatbots already on our websites that they can interact with. We are deploying tests, facial recognition software in conjunction with the government in Dubai as well. So you can actually see now the tests whereby someone coming through the airport can actually, knowing it's coming to a hotel, we can actually realize and actually anticipate before they arrive. When they arrive in the hotel, we're now testing out technology which essentially recognizes the guest. We want to provide the guest the opportunity to avoid check-in completely. This morning was mentioned that every hotel checks in. That's probably not going to be the case in about 6 to 12 months. You don't need to check in anymore. You just walk in, they recognize you as you're coming from the airport, come out of the chauffeur drive car, you walk in, and now you have a choice to make. Either you can talk to the person who's waiting there, saying, what would you like to do? Or would you like to go to a check-in desk, just as like you ordinarily would do? Obviously, we break up our journey. There's the pre, the during, and the post arrival. During the actual stay on the property, we're now deploying technology as well to do simple things that we all know about. The e-butler, chatbots, web chat, whatever that method we want to use. We're doing e-concierge as well, whereby someone can book their itinerary. And I guess my example is I was in a property in Spain, and I was outside, and I sent a message, and I got a message back with my itinerary, because I wanted to go to a fish restaurant, so someone came back. So that interactivity is there. The customer gets to decide how much not to interact with us. Mobile app is actually a small piece for me, because mobile app nowadays is related to in-room, right? The automated lighting, we have the temperature controls, you have curtains opening and closing. So we have those features will be rolled out, but that's, I think, more. It's almost a necessary thing to have, not necessarily add much value, as long as the guest decides that. Obviously, the journey continues towards the end as well, as we go through leaving the property, and there's payments. We talked about payments is a big friction point with our customers. So I think there's a role for technology throughout the entire journey. In a luxury hospitality group, we want to make it as much as you want and as less as you want. I think the previous group talked about F&B and menus, right? And that sort of technology, I think most people today in the luxury like to see actually.
Guest decides.
Guest decides all the way through.
Interesting. Patrick, I'd like to come to you for a second. To continue with this, I mean, we talked about implementation of technology, etc. In terms of adoption and implementation of technology, what are some of the common challenges faced by hotels in this region, and how can they really be overcome? I mean, I know with HMH you've adopted quite a few new tech for your group, so you must come across challenges pretty often in that sense.
Thank you, Ralph. Yes, coming the last one on the panel, makes you a bit nervous because everything's already been said. So, but saying that, yes, to adopt new technology, it's sometimes it's overwhelming. Like my colleague said, you have to think, what does the guest want at the end? And at the end of the day, we mustn't forget what business we're in. At the end of the day, we are still in the people's business. Automation is part of today's business. Everybody is commenting how the young generation is too automated and too much on the systems, and yet when they come to our hotels, this is exactly what we want them to do again. So, you know, you need to balance this. I always say there's not one solution for everything. If you take a lifestyle budget hotel, it's different to a 5-star, 6-star, 7-star, whatever we have in this region, which is the majority. But we have to know how to balance it. Now, talking of adopting, well, at the moment, you know, when you look at your emails every day, you will see that you have, if you don't have a very good spam filter, you will find that you have 6 to 8 emails per day, at least, trying to sell you things to do with the digital world.
We get this as well, by the way. Lead generation, outsourced IT, I mean, there's a lot.
Exactly. So if you're not careful, sometimes these people are very clever in how they write things. They get through your spam guards, and there's a nice talk. But then when you look at things, are they in your region? You know, do they know your region? Have they worked in this area? Probably most of the answers are no. So don't even waste your time there, because it has been tried, you know. If you stick with the tried and tested routes, like, you know, the big 5, as you call them, the known brands, you have no issues, unless you're an early adopter of the next gen, like it was a few years ago when cloud first came out in the region, and it was all back up on cloud. And, you know, if you were the first one, you were really nervous because internet was not really strong and all these things, and people, even the support was not very strong. But saying that, if you stick with these people, then you're fine. But if you start going off-piste because you haven't got the budget, for example, then you are taking a risk. What I would say is, when you are adopting, you have to adopt in the well-known and well-tested, especially in the business that we're in. We can't afford, as you said, we can't afford somebody who's supporting you and who doesn't have the same values as you. Your customers coming in 24/7, and, you know, your support, oh, sorry, we're not working, so the guest will have to wait in the lobby until tomorrow morning to check in. So this, for me, this is my main advice is, you know, do your study, do your work properly. With HMH being an SME, we do look around and see what's available, and you'd be surprised how much there is in availability. And the surprising thing is, it's not just in the secondary or the smaller companies. Even the big companies now have tailor-made solutions for more budget-conscious organizations. So it depends on the budget that you have, and depends on the objective that you have, that you decide the direction.
As long as it matches your requirements.
Exactly, exactly.
I would say, though, that when you are looking at certain technology, I think with certain core applications, you're right, going with something that's tried and tested, but actually some of these small startup companies and or smaller companies, or companies that are using a new application for the first time, it's a new revenue stream for them. I found that very beneficial. One, because we can really customize it the way that we want it. So exactly what you're saying. In this region, we may have certain requirements that are not required elsewhere, but if I work with a company that is a startup, that could be even a disruptor sometimes. I mean, we talked again about payment, but payment is one area that has been a constant battle for us in terms of online payment and e-commerce. There hasn't been anything particularly decent in the region, except in the last...
Across many locations. Right?
Yeah, across many locations, yeah. If you're in the UAE, you're fine. But if you are trying to operate hotels in many other countries, you can't even get a payment link, yeah? So, I mean, it's that basic, or Apple Pay even. I mean, that's where we are at. So we have to look at other technology companies who maybe are well known in one area, but actually have now extended themselves into a new area of payment processing and automation and so forth. And we've done the same with other sort of smaller startup companies as well, in fact. Most of our digital services have actually come from smaller or startup companies, I would say. Yeah.
And I
Quickly,
add to that, because I think you're right. I think that companies that invest in what is not yesterday, but invest in what is tomorrow, will look at things differently. We do, as an organization. you talk about payment, and you've mentioned payment 3 times, and payment links, and being able to get payments, and being able to cross-border with
Automate payments.
It's all about payments, right? So when I changed our organization and bought new technology and built from the ground up new technology, one of the very first things we needed to solve for was, yes, the guest is great, the consumer is good, because we cross over different verticals of business, but how are they going to pay? How are we going to get payment in advance of them arriving, either via a payment link or via an automation that will actually go and get payment as a deposit 2 days before arrival? But more than that, take it to the nth degree, that once the guest checks out and they run day end, how do we then reconcile, especially over very large groups with a lot of very complex systems in play, from POS to websites and to PMSs and so forth? How do we reconcile that to finance? So you're right. These companies, these new breed companies, and we happen to be one of them, we go and play with the many so that we can solve for the big guys. And the big guys also, when we decided to build our technology, we didn't build from the ground up and then come up as a startup would normally do. We took the time to build at the top end and then be able to come down towards all the different branding and so forth, which creates efficiencies from that point. So just touching on your payment topic, that is a very big pain point in global hospitality.
It's crazy how something basic as payments still creates a lot of stumbling blocks in that sense, right?
That's how we get paid.
So coming back to to be able to enable all these digital points with guests and digital journeys, there's a multitude of things which have to be accounted for and which happen in the background. And I want to maybe hear from you, Dominic and Paolo, because you have a lot of integrated tech stack already. What are sort of the key things which you feel in the background are happening technology-wise, right, to enable that nice experience or this, those journeys?
Yeah, I guess from our side, we do try to be as flexible as we can with that tech, but of course the reality is that you have to put some sort of prerequisites in there. So if I look at ourselves, whether you are a franchise, a new hotel, new build, or you're converting into the brand, we have certain core platforms that you must subscribe to. So your CDM for your customer data, your CRS for your distribution and sales, CRM. Those are kind of the main aspects that we have. We of course have other preferred solutions and platforms that we use for our sort of core services. But the reality is there are times when we cannot dictate to the owner or the destination, because there are certain destinations where certain vendors cannot operate. And we can't dictate always that we must use those sort of systems. So from our side, those are the core. We then have our service bus integration, middleware, that allows us to integrate to those three, and then that leaves ourselves the opportunity for all other applications to integrate into that service bus rather than necessarily to those three if they don't have that sort of connection. So it makes it a lot more simpler as long as the application that you want to connect into has the right APIs, of course, which is not always the case. But if they do have the right APIs, then we can at least integrate into that service bus, and then they can have access to those three systems as well as any other systems that we're connected to.
For those non-tech people in the room, maybe Kevin, in a few words, explain a service bus in a sense, because you've mentioned it 4 times, but maybe some people are like, bus, what? Am I supposed to sit in this or what?
Yeah, we sit in it.
Yeah. Service bus,
very
in a nutshell.
It's a bit of technology that sits in between and translates a message from one system to another system and makes sure that the messaging gets correct. So that my profile, as an example, everything about me goes through this service bus to somebody else that needs it, like a CRM or whatnot, which the CRM will then have a workflow to then move on and do some work with.
It avoids us having to have all of our systems
One-to-one
integrating
connections.
to, yeah, exactly. So it allows us to be able to distribute
Centralized
the data.
hub, which can...
Yes, exactly.
One to many.
Yeah.
One connection in
Yeah.
to many.
Yeah.
Paolo,
think,
background? What's
we've-
essential for you?
We're heavily invested in technology from our parent owner to all the verticals, including the Jumeirah Group. And I think there are 5 key elements that we're looking for. First of all, the base needs to be correct. We need to have a proper tech base, including partner integration and system integration. So we're very much focused on having one platform across all the groups, very similarly, except for some places like China, as an example, which always has its own set of complexities. The second big piece is going to be around cloud. We're a cloud-based company. All our applications are on the cloud now throughout the entire, not within our vertical, across all the verticals. And that makes it a lot easier to do AI, upselling, cross-selling, all these type of activities. We are heavy users of APIs. Obviously, APIs are crucial nowadays. Without having APIs, you won't be able to connect the multitude of systems that are out in the sphere out there. Obviously, not everything works. So we use a lot of robotics. RPA is a key fundamental piece of my puzzle as well, and it's also a key fundamental piece of the payment puzzle. Because at the end of the day, the industry has done a poor job with payments, right? And we haven't even talked about things that are not there today, right? That's part of the problem. So we're using RPA to close all those gaps. And last but not least is, I think it was already mentioned, the new tech providers. I mean, we are closed in the history of what we've been doing because we've been doing it all this time. We need to look ahead. And the more we look ahead and we absorb what other tech new providers can provide and take their ideas and understand ideas and integrate them through API or even robotics in some respects, then we can move on to a digital world. I think overall, the biggest challenge we faced is mentality, is mindset. Because everyone just wants to do what we've been doing, is comfortable doing what we've done before. And changing the mindset is the most difficult thing we can do because it means it challenges people's status quo, challenges their ability to do the current work, and challenges the precepts, right? So we're down to a path now whereby even things like night audit, why do we have in this day and age night audits in the hotels? There's no real reason for it.
We don't.
Right? So, and yet you see quite a number of properties still having to do that process.
Alex, without getting into nitty-gritty details of integrations, what do you see as currently are the most important data flows, right, between systems, and where do you see some roadblocks in that at the moment?
I think that when we started Atomize, what we saw, which was 2016, we identified one major hurdle for the next generation of technology in terms of data flow. The first one is the easy one. Obviously, you want to have echo or infrastructure where data can flow, right? But that's the vision everyone has. But what amazed us back then, 2016, which is still not the case actually, is the importance of real time. So I mean, it's one thing to, you mentioned it here about the night audit and so on. I mean, the world is happening in real time. So data needs to flow in real time. As soon as you're not in real time, you will lose out on so many opportunities, all the way up to the guest experience, because guests are experiencing your property or your properties in real time. You cannot sit on obsolete data. So this was striking for us. This was one of the first things we said, like this will sit in the core of what we do. And from our angle, it's about dynamic pricing, which needs to be obviously also real time. You touched, and also eventually going forward, we're talking about hyper personalized guest experiences, but also it comes down to price, right? The price is has a due date that is very close to real time, and it should have that due date because things are happening so quick, especially here in Dubai and in the Middle East with dynamic markets. So real time, I would say, is the biggest hurdle right now, together with the overall ability for data to flow between systems still.
Kevin, I want to come with a question to you, actually, if possible. In this, and real time is maybe part of that, where do you see automation coming into all of this, right? Because that obviously enables some of that real time. What functions or tasks which maybe, in the future, we think of as stupid. Why did we leave it for so long? Like night audits, maybe is one of them, right? Where do you see that coming in that space?
I think I just want to address one
Yeah, sure.
point first, and then I'll answer that question. We talk about real time, and we talk about real time for a guest. There's only ever one of you. But in your hotels, how many of you are in your database as a guest? This is something that we really need to solve for if we really want to know what is the revenue that we get from a guest, over which touch points within your establishment, but also across all of your establishments, by region, by global. What's the value of the guest? You can only do that if you have one of me as a guest. And that's not an easy thing to do. Robotics can help do that because you can take all of your profiles and you can give it to somebody to then match and merge and hope that it matches and merges okay. Then they've got to send it back and then update it within the system, the core system that you have, so that you know about your guest. Because what is the real value of that guest to you, to your region, to your group, therefore to your owners? The second part of that is your technology today, without having to send it to somebody, because then you have a data privacy issue. You're giving it to somebody else. Therefore, you're sending data to somebody else, and somebody else is manipulating it. And then they're sending it back to you. You've got a data privacy issue. Does your technology today allow you to do that match and merge ability on the fly, so that you can actually capture, so that you can do exactly that, so that you can address the guest's needs now, this second, because they're there, or they're on their way, or they're already in-house, or they've left, and you need to do something for them? That's a key element. If you look at technologies like RP, that went very fast, by the way.
Yeah, we have a couple of minutes, but don't worry. We have just like 2 questions.
What was the question?
We were talking about things we think are stupid now. What do you think automation will kind of take away from hotels in the future?
I think automations, if you look at RPA technologies, and I know that RoboSize Me is in the room, but if you look at the RPA technologies that are there today, RPAs, and I talk to many of the companies that own or have created RPA technologies for customers, is being really targeted for a temporary use. It's there to solve a problem. I've got a problem, like my profiles. I need to fix that problem, like my payments. But my current technology won't allow me to do that. I need to find somebody that can do that. Great, there's a great use case for RPA technology to come in and help you solve your problem. If you talk about night audit shouldn't take any more than 3 minutes to run in any hotel. Should not take any more than 3 minutes to run. 2 or 3 minutes. Now, in the past, in the legacy solutions that are in market today, they could take hours to do. But those immediacies need to be put into play so that you can go and service your guest. I think that RPA provides a great solution for an immediate problem. I think that the next generation is not, RPA will never go away, it's always going to be there, but I think that the most exciting part is about AI. And I always say, and I tell my team, AI is not the be and an end all of everything. You have to have what we call responsible AI. Because any cloud solution provider that you have today has a responsibility, and they are the custodian of your data. And if you let AI do things that is not responsible AI, then you've got to be careful of where all that data goes across the different third parties that are there.
I'd run into trouble otherwise.
Yeah.
Patrick, I have one last question for you. What are some cost-effective solutions that smaller hotels or groups can adopt to compete with larger establishments, right? In a sense, because HMH is not a huge group yet, I should say. But what, in your eyes, have you seen which makes you competitive, right?
Okay, well, we have to be careful here, because even though we're an SME at this stage, but we're growing, when you grow, you need to look at the available solutions that work. But saying that, we also look around at the non-as expensive or the non-mainstream solutions. And there are, as you quite rightly said, there are a lot of providers who provide some very good solutions. And in fact, what you find is that when these are so good, eventually the big boys buy them out. So it's, but it is interesting to look around and to see some of the solutions. You know, people are adopting clouds. You know, even the non-mainstreams are adopting cloud. They are up to date with their thinking. And in fact, some of them, because they're young, they're nimble, they're pretty much startups, their thinking can be much faster and much forward-looking than some of the more classic operators. So it is good. But like I said earlier as well, some of the big fives have adopted different level of budgets. So it is a very competitive market now for the very small operator and for the bigger providers and the bigger providers as well. So even though you're an SME or you're not a high-end luxury operator, technology is still going to be technology. Guests do expect the same thing. You know, guests do expect to be coming in and having a seamless arrival experience, or being able to change the air conditioning temperature or dim the lights in their room. You know, when you're talking about a budget lifestyle hotel that like Ecos is, guests do expect that. They don't think that because they've paid a budget price, there should be any less technology in them. Because at home today, when you're holding your device, you don't think of these things. It doesn't matter. The technology allows you to do all these things. At home, it doesn't matter what TV you have. You know, it doesn't have to be a Bang & Olufsen or a high-end TV. Even the simplest TV today can do Chromecast or can do all these facilities. So it's no longer a luxury for hotels to have these things. It's now an essential part.
Exactly. You just have to play the game.
I think that the limited service market wants more technology for the guests to be using. The high end of market demands to have more guest engagement, but technology they walk with and do what they would normally do at a front desk, do on the go. Walk the guest to the room. Beijing Peninsula, for example, when we installed our solution there, they took out all of the front desk and they walk every guest to the room using iPad.
That's awesome. As long as the guest can be connected in the luxury market, that's what they want. They want to be connected, but they don't want to be hassled with not seeing people. They want to see the people. You're absolutely right.
That's right. And then that was the bridge of what was the change an evolution that the Peninsula Group needed to do. Change is a risk. The risk creates reward. The guest benefits.
I don't want to overrun on Ashish's time schedule for today. Originally we had a live Q&A planned, but
I'll have a chat with him later.
Exactly. We had a live Q&A planned, but I think we had some interesting discussions going on vice versa, and some inside information being shared about how really you're enabling it. So thank you all very much. Really appreciate your insights on all of this. So thank you to the panelists.
Thank you very much.